Morrigan, or Mor for short, is my knight character from my story Blades and Ballads. The plot follows a Siamese princess, Arya, who's forced to leave her homeland as war erupts and seeks refuge in a foreign kingdom. Mor reluctantly accepts the task of being Arya's personal companion and glorified babysitter during her stay. As they grow closer though, Mor inevitably discovers what this princess has been hiding. She eats people. So I've drawn Mor quite a few times, but I've never settled on an official design. So today I'll be walking through my thought process in creating this reference sheet and introducing more of her character and where I want to take her in this story. Now, just to clear the air, when I initially designed her I had a huge crush on Brienne of Tarth, so everyone can stop asking, okay? They look alike because I like big strong women. But even with her muscular physique, Mor has an air of innocence in her character, despite how the world has hardened her. I attributed this innocence into the image of a lamb, and you can sort of see that in the curls of her hair being like wool, the freckles on her face, or the fact that she's literally the sacrificial lamb in this story. Wait, who said that? I honestly struggled a bit with designing the armor. I found it hard to strike a balance between making a believable functional armor set compared to one that's just pretty to look at. But I felt for the aesthetics of the story, it's fine to lean on the more visually appealing side. I still kept some realistic elements like the chainmail and visible chest and shoulder pieces, but we're gonna pretend that her kingdom is very well off and their artists and blacksmiths get paid well enough to spend hours making floor motifs on every piece of armor. I also wanted to explore her clothing outside of the armor, and it was a good chance for me to think about her environment and the climate of her kingdom. It's cold. Look at her. Gotta keep the tan up, Brian, you're white as a ghost. You're haunting this house with your whiteness, Brian. But yeah, similar to the armor, which is assigned to every knight, her casual clothing is also technically a uniform. She struggles with this internally, I think. The feeling of being one of many. Something replaceable. Something worthless. I made her vulnerability a big part of her character. I think it's obvious I'm playing with the knight and princess trope, but I didn't want my knight to be this stoic, emotionally detached individual. A big part of how Mor and Arya grow to understand and to connect with each other is through their youth and immaturity. I mean, they're both in their early 20s, kids pretending to be adults. I'm talking about myself right now. I want them to bicker. I want them to argue and make up and make out, and for them to develop empathy and patience for each other. Mor desperately wants to be seen as an individual, even if she denies it. But there's a deep sense of loneliness in being trained to believe you're disposable. Arya comes into her life at the height of her questioning her identity, and it gives Mor a chance to exist outside of her duties as a knight. There is so much more to her than just being the quote-unquote protector. I mean, this is a girl who purposefully walks slower during her patrols in the castle to admire embroidered tapestries. She carves intricate wooden figurines of animals at night. She sits baking in her armor in the summertime in a field of flowers just to draw how the colors reflect on metal. And Arya bears witness to this tenderness, the inherent softness of this side of Mor. Not only that, but she affirms and encourages this aspect of her. I think that's the beauty in all relationships, to not only grow with someone, but from them too. To be given a hand to hold when you're uncertain, your partner not being the answer, but your companion as you search for your own answer. I honestly haven't written much about her childhood. I'm tempted to go her parents died in a burning village and she picked up a wooden sword and became a prodigy, but so cliche. I thought it might be more interesting if she was raised by a ragtag team of lower class older knights. Maybe they took a liking to her when she was a kid, chipped in to give her the best sword and armor they could afford, trained her themselves until she was eventually recruited. I think that would have been a fun childhood. Like her naming her own sword before she knew how to spell her own name. She learned to swing a sword before she could properly read. Her bedtime stories were often too gory, so these knights pretended the enemies they slayed were goblins or ogres. I'd like to think they never taunted her sensitivity. They never ridiculed her when she cried after making her first kill on a hunt, or the fact that she sleeps with a sword like a teddy bear, a habit that still sticks. I'd like to think in her sensitivity they saw an innate humanity. And through all the battles and bloodshed they'd witnessed, that humanity gave them hope. But once she was recruited, once she finally earned that polished armor and crest, something in her shifted. The warmth that raised her, the softness the older knights tried so hard to protect, it got trained out of her. Royal training didn't want a person, it wanted a weapon. They taught her to prioritize her kingdom's needs over her own, to swallow fear, to obey without question, to accept that every knight was replaceable. She was told again and again that sacrifice was the highest honor, even if no one remembered your name. So she hardened, or she tried to, and then Arya arrives. This foreign princess who's infuriatingly stubborn, with the softest eyes, someone who refused to treat Mor like just another night-shaped shadow in the hallways. Someone who saw her pauses, her hesitation, her hunger for beauty, her humanity, and didn't mock or overlook it. Someone who required gentleness from her, patience from her, honesty from her. And in that recognition, in rediscovering herself, a deep, gnawing fear began to grow inside her. Because once you remember you're human, you remember you can die. And she questions everything she's built her adult life on. What is she fighting for? Is she truly protecting her kingdom, or just preserving the ambitions of people who will never bleed for her? Is she just a pawn in someone else's game? Is her life worth more than some poetic death in the field she'll never be buried in? Is she allowed to want something beyond duty, a future, a choice, a hand to hold? And it terrifies her because nothing in her training prepared her for this kind of bravery. The bravery of wanting to live. Joan of Arc famously said, "I am not afraid. I was born to do this." But Mor feels the opposite. She is afraid, terrified even. Terrified that remembering how to care makes her remember that everything she loves could be taken away from her.
I can hear you.
You're no fun.
Thank you so much for watching. Please consider becoming a patron for this channel so I can spend more time drawing these lesbian losers, and also you get gifts every month. Okay, bye-bye.